Welcome to Tours to Titles Down Under Dynasty. I'm your host, Ben Duvin, at Live from the Ben. And with me, as usual, my co-host at FF Doormat. How are you today, Matt?
Mate, I'm doing wonderfully well. Week 9, halfway through the NFL season. Can't complain. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back.
How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. Feeling nice and refreshed after a long weekend away. You know, the socialising and all the people, it's a bit weird at first. Had to get over some mental hurdles. But, it was good to be out and about in Victoria, mate. Very, very glad. You're on mute, mate.
Saying happy days. Happy
days, mate.
Out of lockdown, we're not shanking people, but it feels like you need to carry a shiv or something around, right? We've been in lockdown so long, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And our other co-host, official, as of last week, but my first podcast with him as an official member of the Tours to Titles family, at Mark Bull is here. Bully, how are you, sir? That head of hair is looking wonderful.
Yeah, finally got around to having a haircut since Freedom Day. So figured I should probably stop looking like a homeless person wandering around. So, it's been good.
That looks like one of those 3-hour $500 haircuts.
Not 3 hour 500, but it was more expensive than my normal barber. But turns out my normal barber's not able to open until the 1st of December for various reasons.
Ah, fair enough. Did you get a head massage with that?
No head massage. No head massage.
Did you go to the shampoo? No. It looks like there's been put a lot of effort into that. I'm very impressed.
That's the best part about a haircut is that head massage. It's unreal. Give you the shampoo, give you the massage.
My barber usually just fires them out. Get them in, get them out, nice and quick.
That's how Bull likes it, nice and quick.
But it's good to be part of the team, and yeah, let's get cracking.
Let's get cracking because it has been an insane week in football. Crazy. I like how much has happened.
Yeah,
what hasn't happened is more of the question.
I mean, this season feels like it's been. I don't know whether it just every season feels this way, but I feel like this season's just been a minefield, especially at that running back position. And you know, we've lost Derrick Henry, who everyone was thinking was inhuman. You know, on pace for 650 carries or whatever it was, something stupid. But yeah, it's just been an intense week.
I think they cursed him because I saw a couple of articles pop up about, his chances of breaking Emmitt Smith's rushing record and where he's at historically. And then the next thing you know, injured, out 6 to 10 weeks, maybe the whole year. So what do you do with Henry now? If you had him, you were likely a big-time contender.
Yeah.
You can't sell him right now. Are you just holding him?
Yeah, I'd probably be moving him. He's a big human. He's a big human, and call it what you want. It is a Jones fracture. They're not going to call it that because then that carries with it a whole bunch of drama. But that bone that he's broken is a Jones fracture, and we've seen even with wide receivers that don't take the beating and aren't the same size. Once you pick those up, like Julio's been 3 years of dealing with foot and related issues since he did that, and was a similar age playing in a less demanding position. But when you're 260 odd pounds and you're trying to put that amount of pressure through that foot, the risk of re-injury is quite high. Like I'd be looking for that team that, They've been hurt a little bit. They're sitting in 7th or 8th. They're probably going to just miss the playoffs this year, but think they can make a push next year. And I'd be trying to pick up, a player that can help me keep winning now and sell it to that team that thinks they can make a push next year and be out on it. And I mean, it's hard because a lot of us as owners finally came around to the idea that Derrick Henry might actually, be worth owning.
I think a lot of people like me and Matt, who were kind of probably before the season, well, we were, if you're not competing, you've got to sell Derrick Henry. And maybe even if you are competing, you want to pivot. But he was proving to be inhuman until he wasn't.
Yeah.
And luckily we have Dr. Bully here to diagnose the Jones fracture that nobody else has been able to diagnose yet. But
yeah, I spent a fair bit
who is the worst player you would take in a straight up swap for Derrick Henry?
It's a hard one.
That's the both of you. So you're a dynasty contender. You're on the path to championship glory.
You're 8-0 in Kraken with the most points, and you got Derrick Henry.
What are you doing?
I'll be hitting Bull up. I'll be hitting Bull up for Najee, just a straight swap. Thanks, Bull.
Well, Najee's my RB1 overall, so
that's the dream. But what's the reality?
Yeah, look, just on his injury, I think Pro Football Doc also said take the overs on the 6 to 10. It is 6 to 10 weeks, and they reckon take the overs. So Dr. Chow, he's the surgeon or ex-surgeon for the Chargers. He's got some pretty good documents up there, and he's been spot on with his analysis. So looking like he's probably going to miss the playoffs, right? So we're under the assumption that he's going to be out. If he's not going to come back, then I'm trying to cover him if I can. But in that league, I've got Dobbins on the bench. I've got CEH on the bench. So I'm starting to feel a bit thin. So, yeah, look, for me, he's already, as you were saying, Benny, his value's down. I'll be looking to get, any starter, just cut the loss. Who cares about value?
Any starter.
Not any starter, but I'll be looking at any starting running back, like
okay, so
I know Josh Jacobs and something plus. You're not going to get him straight up, I think, but I'll be looking at that. That sort of thing. Damien Harris, how I can get Damien Harris with Henry, what that sort of trade looks like. I might have to add something to it, but that's what I'll be looking to do.
Add to Derrick Henry to get Damien Harris.
You might have to. Depends who's got him, right? Like already, what was his value? You try to move him already, and we're all ageist, right? Like it's like Hopkins. You can't move Hopkins now. Try to move Derrick Henry when he was healthy. It was tough enough. Now he's injured. There's doubts about it. Who cares about value is my point. I'm not really concerned about that value. I just want someone I can plug and play that can start every down. If I've got other injuries on my bench, if I've got McCaffrey who's coming back or Saquon, but like in Kraken, I'm 3 or 4 down. So. If I need to, I'd look at that. I'd just try and buy a Fournette or something, maybe a second for Fournette if I'm a contender, and maybe just carry Henry on the bench because you're going to lose value. But, if you're making the playoffs, whatnot, you can make that value up somewhere else, like just I'll be looking at getting a starter.
Bully, who's the worst starter that you'd take in a straight up swap for Derrick Henry? Is it somebody like Josh Jacobs?
I don't think I'd be looking at Josh Jacobs just because I don't like how he's being used.
I don't mean specifically Jacobs, but in that tier, like who is it for you?
I was just having a look at if you're going running back exclusively, it changes it a little bit.
Just let's pretend you need to start. You need a running back. You need a running back. Yep.
If I need a running back. It's really ugly. If I've got no other piece to move, I'd be looking almost for either paying up and adding something to go after Najee. Like if you drafted Najee, chances are you're probably not in the playoffs this year.
That's
or the
a
worst
big
case scenario is I'd probably try and get. Though. Yeah, you're probably looking at a first and a second on top of it.
You're probably looking, yeah. So, but let's get back to the question at hand. The player straight up. Who is the worst running back you take?
Aaron Jones or maybe Michael Carter. Try and do Michael Carter in a piece.
I like the Michael Carter one there. I think that's.
I think Aaron Jones is probably built with a little bit more security for a playoff run.
I don't think you could get Aaron Jones straight up for Derrick Henry.
Well, Aaron Jones is currently going on ADP.
I think you could still get Carter. I mean, it really depends, right? Because it depends who's got them. Because unless they can feel they can compete next year, they're probably not going to do.
Yeah,
they probably wouldn't do Carter for Henry.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because I'm like most dynasty players, right? I don't want to buy an old running back, especially one who's had historic, usage rates, doesn't have any receiving upside, and is on the sideline. Like, what's the benefit?
He was showing that receiving upside this season, mate.
Yeah, it's breaking my heart. I know, but in the past he hasn't, right? So,
yeah,
I'm not sure. I'd do Carter. I'd want something back.
I still think you could get Carter. The guy's had one decent game. But he's got the, I think Carter is somebody gettable.
I think maybe even someone, if you look at someone like a James Robinson, if someone potentially is in that 5th or 6th, 7th, 8th spot and they're trying to get into the playoffs, I think you could potentially make the move for James Robinson, given that.
I like that one, Bully. I think that's a good one. I think with James Robinson having ATN. Lurking in the background, that's somebody who, if the other team was already out of it, I think you could get straight up for Derrick Henry.
It comes down to the type of manager you are. Like, if I'm in that top 3 spots this late in the season, I'm willing to sell the farm to go after it. And you know what? If it means I've got to spend a year rebuilding next year, so be it. I'd rather win this year than 5th next year. I'd be more than happy to make the move for, say, James Robinson and Marvin Jones. Get yourself a little bit of wide receiver depth as well. A player like in that 30-year-old age range that's putting up wide receiver 2 numbers. You could probably get those 2 for Derrick Henry, and
it's probably an ideal injury, right? If we're talking about trading out, like Bull said, moving these guys on. You never want to make that move where maybe CeeDee Lamb goes down and you're trading him out, right? You're trading some young upside guy. It's perfect, as you're saying, Bill. It's a perfect move to make to sell out because he's already old, right? He hasn't got that value as a young stud wide receiver, or if it's even a Christian McCaffrey, right? Like he's already on the upside, or on the downside with age and usage. So I like that, Bull.
Yeah, like. The hard part this year is, like, to give you a list of, like, running backs that are currently on IR or out for extended periods. Henry's out, Alaire's out, Barkley's out, Carson's out, Mostert's out, Hunt's out, Sanders is out, Gus Edwards is out. Like, they're all on IR or on long-term, not likely. Then you've got CMC, who you don't know when they're going to be back. Like, there's probably 6 or 7 of the top 12 running backs going in, by the time, especially if you include Gus in there once Dobbins went down.
Maybe you should just cobble running back together and trade Henry for a wide receiver.
But even that's not any better. Like, you lost Calvin Ridley this week. Like, he's another one. Like,
hopefully Ridley is back. In a couple of weeks. But let's not go down the Calvin Ridley path. We'll talk about Derrick Henry. Let's stay on course, Bully. On course.
Yeah.
All right.
What are you taking if you had a Najee or someone? What are you adding to Derrick? What would it take to get Najee if you had someone selling you Derrick Henry, Bully? Would it be a first, or is that enough?
Oh, it'd need to be a first plus.
It'd be. I'd probably want 2 firsts.
I'd probably need a first and a Bateman, or a first and an early second, at least. And even then, some of it would depend on how my team is. Like Najee for me, I think we had the discussion 2 weeks ago. Like he's in that RB1 overall, like, situation for me. Having said that, though, like I do enjoy selling RBs when they get to peak value. So he's probably one that in this off season I'll look to move. I'll get someone a little bit younger and another piece on top.
Yeah, I think Harris will have a lot of hype this off season between an improved Steelers O line and a potentially new quarterback, and now he's going to have the running lanes, and so yeah, be a good time to sell because that running back value just so
drops off the
unreliable.
cliff. Like CMC was the RB1 by a mile going into this season. And I think in the latest ADP data that came out the other day, like I think he's outside the top 8.
Look, I can't say to be. I haven't been paying much attention to the ADP in season. I mean, it rises and falls, I guess, with the injuries.
He's already older than Jonathan Taylor right now. That's the thing too. He's not like Taylor.
He's older than he's
23 already.
Yeah, he's older than that whole class from 2020. He's older than all of them. He's only a month. He's only a month or two older than younger than Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, like I've gone away from looking at age for running backs and only where they are in their rookie contract. Like I think we've seen enough evidence now, especially when Mixon's an outlier, strictly because for the first time in his career he has a decent quarterback, multiple good receivers, and a coaching staff that know what they're doing. So Mixon's an outlier, but I think we've seen enough now. Running backs on their second contract, that's when they start to blow up. So for me, I'm looking at running backs in their first or second year of their rookie deal, especially if they've got that first and second round draft capital. Once they get to the middle to end of that second year, I'm out. I don't want any part of a running back when they're in contract negotiations, because one of two things is either going to happen. They're either going to go to a different offense where their production's going to be questionable, or
personally, I don't have rules like that. I'm just all about value. I'm just all about the cost. No hard and fast rules for this guy.
It makes sense what Bully's saying. I don't play that way just because you do miss out on value and sometimes production. Aaron Jones was perfect player, right? That we all thought. I thought I had him and I moved him, and I moved him cheap because I thought he was going to resign elsewhere. Be part of a committee, but he didn't. He came back. Who knew? So you just don't know. But a lot of people do play that way. I don't know. Just take it case by case.
Yeah, I take the case by case. I'm looking at the overall workload. If a running back's 26 or 27 and he hasn't had a big workload in his career, all right, I've got no problem with it. Like, remember Michael Turner was on the Chargers for years and then signed with Atlanta and was a beast for like 3 or 4 seasons. He's a grouse running back. All right, on to more news. Henry Ruggs. What's his dynasty value?
Yeah, it's not much upside, is it?
Yeah. Like, I'm going to preface this because we do live in a world where we have to make disclaimers, where we live in an age where you've got a button on your phone to get a lift home. He's a millionaire. Push the button and get a lift home. Why drive drunk? But we are here to talk about fantasy football value, and it probably does help some of those assets. Probably hurts Derek Carr, helps Waller, helps Edwards, hopefully, helps Renfro. But as for Henry Ruggs, he's a cut. I think I sold my only share. You had a brief window when it initially happened, and there were some questions, and nobody was really sure what went on. You had a brief window where you could shop him and try and get rid of him and just, get a third or whatever for him. And I managed to get rid of my only share during that time. But yeah, he's gone. He's going to jail.
What a waste. Terrible waste of life. Obviously that young woman lost a life. There's also a dog involved. Just terrible situation, terrible waste. Just a shame all around.
Yeah, it's terribly sad. And me and Billy were talking about it a bit before. I don't think situations like driving under the influence, I don't think the outcome should drive the punishment. I think if all driving under the influences were treated really harshly, despite the outcome, I think we'd see less situations like that because people would think more. People, you don't think you're going to get in the car and crash and kill someone, right? No one thinks that ever. You might think, oh, I'll get in the car, I'll get caught, because there's a probability that you get caught, right? But no one thinks you're going to crash and kill someone. And if the punishment for just driving under the influence was a lot more severe, I think we'd see less situations like this. I mean, the reality is, if exactly the same thing happened, but that woman and her dog walks away unharmed, right? Which happens sometimes, right? You see these cars are smashed to pieces and people just walk away. Like, then he's not in the same situation that he's in now.
4-game suspension.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, I agree with that, Benny. It probably should be much harder punishment. I think Singapore, my missus is Singaporean, it's you're going to have up to 6 months or 12 months in jail just for your first offence. Not guaranteed to have it. Second offence, you're guaranteed jail time, and the jail over there is a bit different than here. You're talking about, no pillow, no TVs, nothing, just one little bit of mat. So yeah, it's a whole different world, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, he's being charged with, I think, driving under the influence causing severe injury or death or something like that. So he's being charged with the highest level of what he can get charged with DUI, and I think there's meant to be some weapons charges strapped to it. And I mean, last night as I was going to bed, there was video emerging of him or his girlfriend live streaming him speeding on TikTok or something
And they have a kid together, so she's on TikTok egging him on to speed. That's just
the video was her saying slow down, but yeah,
it's just a sad situation.
I initially thought he'd get the rich person discount and get the lower end of the spectrum, but that video coupled with the weapons charges and stuff like that, I think he could be looking at the full, close to the 20 years.
I think he'd be looking at the full. He's got a great shot at getting the full 20 years. I think all the mitigating circumstances.
That video is not going to help him.
No, I think he's stuffed. And it's sad for the race. I mean, they drafted this guy in the first round, and other people had outperformed him. But he was really starting to come on this season. He looked like what they thought he would be. And now he's gone. You spend a top 12 draft pick on a guy and that's it. It's over. And I know this whole thing is bigger than football, but we're here to talk football and fantasy football. That's why we do this. And I mean, we're not trivializing anything that's happened, but there's real life. There are football impacts to this whole situation.
I just wonder if it can draw the team together a bit. Sometimes these teams have a bit of tragedy, they overcome it. It draws them a little bit closer. Probably the talent on the field, is takes a step down, but maybe that they draw together through the adversity.
Yeah,
I just think it sucks, but yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a few players that have come out this week and sort of come out in support of Henry Ruggs, where they're like, oh, there's enough people piling on. He was my brother. I've got to stand by him. But
look, I'm not gonna pile on Henry Ruggs. I didn't do a whole bunch of stupid shit when I was in my early 20s because it did.
No,
that's the reality of the situation. I did a lot of dumb stuff in my late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and get on my high horse about shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. I never drove 200 kilometers an hour in a car at 1.6 blood alcohol content.
My Datsun S20, it couldn't get up that high. I tried it a few times, but downhill, all the boys in the back try to get that fast. But look, in all seriousness, if it's one of your mates, you stand by your mate. You'll be there for him and everything. But he's going to cop a punishment, and so he should. So it's all good to stand by people, but at the same time, like I say, you don't want to pile on, right? You don't want to condemn him, because we've all done stupid things, and sometimes, like you say, just wrong time, wrong place, or a bit of luck. It turns out a different way.
But I think we all agree.
Yeah.
That his dynasty value is shot.
Yeah.
And
he's cooked.
A district attorney bully is, I think he's going to throw the book at him. I think he's stuffed.
Yeah.
There's a show, isn't there, Bull? A crime show with the lawyer's Bull. I can see it.
I spent a lot of time driving this week, so I've had a fair amount of time to listen to a lot of people a lot smarter than me talk about it. And
I bought a new car in May, and I only just hit 2,000 kilometers.
For reference, I hit 2,000 kilometers in a week at one point earlier this year.
Wow. There's a sneaky, there's a trade of a defensive player that I think means that there's a sneaky chance this offense sees even more fantasy value overall because of the defense's ability now to get teams off the field. And that's Von Miller to the Rams. Now, Von Miller isn't his, prime self, but even average defensive ends have looked like studs playing next to Aaron Donald. So I'm super excited to see Von Miller next to Aaron Donald. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that that the improvement in the defense could create more opportunities for the offense, even more?
I think it's got the potential to almost have the opposite effect. Like,
fight to the death, bully.
I think if that defense actually steps up, there's the potential that Stafford doesn't need to put up, 45 points a game. He may want to, he may have the ability to, but I think it gives them the option now that if they get a lead, they can, run the ball a little bit more and not have to air the ball out as much.
So your take is Darrell Henderson, RB1. That's the take.
He already was, according to Bully.
My take is the Rams seem like that fantasy football team that one year drafted badly, and now all of a sudden they, trade all their picks for proven players. Like they drafted Jared Goff, and they realized that was a mistake, and now they've just decided, nope, we're not doing that again. Like, it just seems like they're determined to not have any picks.
It's a great move, real NFL wise. I don't know how it's going to affect the fantasy team, but he's going to eat. So you'd love to see it as a Rams fan. For everyone else, not so much.
Shout out to Lloydie, big Rams fan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll be pretty keen. Like, it does make me. I do think you've got to readjust some of your fantasy settings moving forward. Like, I think Ben and I were having a chat off air before that. Denver are currently ranked, I think, 3rd for points allowed to QBs so far this season. I think they're not as scary of a prospect anymore. And I think the Rams now, potentially, you have a second thought before you start the QB playing them. So just, be aware that when you're starting players against that Rams defense and Denver defenses now, the world has changed a little bit.
And the other crazy news of the week is Aaron Rodgers pretending he was vaccinated, only for it to all be a lie. All be a lie. And then he went on the Pat McAfee show. I can't say his last name. Pat McAfee show, and basically unloaded on the woke media and just the whole left in general, and went a bit he's even a bit crazy. What do you guys think about Aaron Rodgers and his whole situation? Do you think he was trying to get one over the people, over the general public
100%.
in regards to his vaccination status?
100%. No one cares about his vaccination status, right? Really. It's just because in that interview, if you watch it, it's not that he just said, yes, I've been immunized, which is already pretty dodgy, right? But then he went on to say, look, I'm not going to judge the other guys in the team that aren't vaccinated. They've all got our part to play. I'm not going to judge them, but, I've taken this side of things and yada, yada, yada. So for me, that I don't care one way if he's vaccinated or not. Do whatever you want to do. But, he was trying to pull a Swiftie and, just typical Aaron Rodgers, really. I thought, if you don't want to get vaccinated, just come out and say it, right? Kirk Cousins said it and Cole Beasley come out pretty strongly and said it, and it is what it is. But, yeah, technically he didn't lie, right? He just said he was immunised and he sort of made out that he was vaccinated, but not a good look.
Yeah, apparently, the immunisation process he underwent was some imaginary crystal healing. I don't know. I feel like you guys bait me every 3 weeks to insulting Aaron Rodgers on here. So
I was.
To be fair, he does it himself.
He does it himself.
I was someone who thought Aaron Rodgers got a bit of a raw deal a lot of time, but now I think that this is just I've been wrong. The guy is just.
Is he one of the most unlikable people in the NFL?
It'd be tough to play with. It'd be tough to be his teammate,
Do you think that he wore the Doc Holliday T-shirt on purpose?
I didn't see that.
Right, so he wore the Doc Holliday T-shirt. Doc Holliday died of tuberculosis, another lung.
Billy the Kid's mate, right? Doc Holliday.
White Earps.
White Earp. Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was Billy the Kid. Western anyway.
Like
Tombstone, right? He's in Tombstone, classic.
No, he's a real person.
Yeah, he's a real person, but the Tombstone character's classic, right?
Yes.
I can see Aaron Rodgers be one of those players that when his career is over and all the shit comes out, it's kind of like that Brett Favre thing. Like people knew Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers didn't get along.
Let's not talk about Brett Favre. Let's not go back to Brett Favre.
What I'm saying is, I think when Rodgers retires and players can openly speak about him, I think we're going to find out that what his family thinks he is what he is, and I think playing games like this, like the NFL came out pre-season and made it really clear that if you're unvaccinated and you cause a COVID outbreak in your team, the punishments are going to be real. Forfeiture of points, having to pay the other team's wages for the week.
The NFL must have known he was unvaccinated because the Packers said that they knew he was unvaccinated and they were treating him like an unvaccinated player, and yet he fronted up to those press conferences without a mask when unvaccinated players were supposed to wear a mask. So the NFL must have known. Why did they let him get away with that for so long?
No, but see, I don't think the NFL would have, because the NFL made it clear that it was up to the teams, which is the NFL. And the NFL said it's up to the teams, but these are the punishments that we can dish out. And I just think it's just, classic Aaron Rodgers being a petulant child going and he's come out and he's used the excuse, the next great battle in my life is becoming a father. And righto, mate.
It's all bullshit. Yeah. It's just conspiracy and nut job stuff. Yeah. And he had a partnership with Previa Health. He's lost that partnership.
Yeah. And
he wouldn't be back on Jeopardy. He's not going to get back on Jeopardy anytime soon, is he?
No. No, like for me, the biggest thing this week is to all the people that are like, oh well, I think a professional athlete is more healthy than the average population. I'm like, or cares more about his health than the average population. I'm like, he cares so much about his health that he doesn't care about his teammates' health. He doesn't care about his teammates' family's health. He doesn't care. Like, it's just disrespectful to everyone around him. Like, and
Yeah, I mean,
It's just the line part for me. Just the part that
yeah,
he tried to cover it over. He tried to make out he wasn't. If you
yeah. At
want to do what
least
you want
Cole,
to do, just that's fine. Have your own stance.
yeah,
But
Cole Beasley's a crazy snake, but at least he came out and said he's a crazy
he owned
snake.
it.
Like,
He owned it, right? Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
just own
look,
it.
for me, any time it starts with I've done my own research, I just roll my eyes. I don't care. Like, sure, there's probably a few people who shouldn't get vaccinated. I don't know. I don't like vaccine. I'm not huge on the mandates, right? I don't think that there should necessarily be mandates, but I'm fully vaccinated. It was an easy decision for me. I don't. If someone to me the only people like it shouldn't be your research. Just go to your doctor and consult with your doctor and go by what the doctor says because they're doctors.
Yeah.
I think Joe Knows wrote a good article about othering people that are not vaccinated. Right? Like we all respect people. If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's fine. We're not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you, pile on you. Do what you want to do. It was a really good article up on Towards the Title by Joe. Joe Knows COVID, I think it's called. But look, in all seriousness, that's not the issue really. It's just the part that he tried to make out that he was vaccinated.
He definitely tried to hoodwink people.
Yeah.
In regards to his vaccination status. Absolutely, 100%. But with that, means he can't play this week. And what does that mean, guys?
Blake Bortles season.
Jordan Love season, my friends. Jordan Love is going to start his first NFL regular season game.
We taking the over or the under on 3 interceptions, Matt?
I'm feeling shades of Pat Mahomes. His first start with the Broncos.
Take those overs.
Mate, look, I'm firmly in the Jordan Love is going to be a good NFL quarterback camp. I'm a bit nervous for this week. I probably would have preferred that he sat on the bench for the whole year, to be honest, because his dynasty value could die this week.
He's no Mac Jones, is he? He's no Mac Jones.
Listen, I think Jordan Love's been put in a perfect position to succeed. I think we've seen this season with. I think if Jordan Love comes out and succeeds, in the next 2 weeks, because let's face it, Rodgers is probably missing 2 weeks.
You reckon 2 weeks? Look, I don't think it's guaranteed that he misses 2 weeks, and I don't know if I agree See, if Jordan Love plays well, people are going to say, "Well, the Chiefs' defense sucks."
Yeah.
All right. So that's what I think. He may not even get the credit that he might get, even if he does play well. To me, if he goes toe to toe with Pat Mahomes and they win, and he, like an NFL defense is still an NFL defense, right? Yeah. So I think if he plays a good game, I think it's encouraging. But I think people will still look to shoot him down because people just didn't like the pick and they want to rag on him. But I mean, he's got a lot of physical talent. He's got a great arm. He can move around a little bit, and I think it's good that he sat on the bench.
Yeah, like I'm a big fan of quarterbacks sitting on the bench and learning. Like I would have had no dramas with Mac Jones sitting on the bench and learning this year, even if it meant that Cam Newton was starting. Like I think
it worked for Mike White.
Yeah, well, Mike White sat in systems learning for 3 years and then started. Like I don't think Mike White was a QB that if he had been put on a team and made to start 2 or 3 games in his rookie year, he probably doesn't have 405 yards or whatever it was, no matter how bad the defense that he was up against is. I'm a big proponent of quarterbacks being given time to learn because that jump from college to pro, no matter how good you are, is huge. Like Trevor Lawrence is the winningest quarterback to come out of college in the last 30 years, and he's struggled. Joe Burrow set the world on fire, came out, struggled. Like, you get the rare quarterback that can come out and light it up straight away, but I think the vast majority of quarterbacks would do better for sitting and learning and getting to, even if it's against, even if it's scout team reps and practice squad and stuff like that, like
but
getting to know the speed.
I don't think you're going to have quarterbacks sitting on the bench for any more than, say, a year anymore. Just because the value that rookie contract gives you, if the quarterback is good, and the team you can build around a quarterback on a rookie contract is just such an advantage, and teams want to capitalize on that.
Plus, you're getting that experience, on-field experience too, aren't you? I like it when they sit a bit longer. I think I come out and said for Trey Lance, I hope he sits all season just to get that 1 year. But you can see more and more where, like Justin Fields, getting thrown to the wolves a little bit, and he's come good the last couple of games. But it just depends what the Packers are going to ask him to do too, right? If he's just going to throw, short little out routes to Devontae Adams and they run the ball, and maybe that'll make it easier for him.
I believe in Matt LaFleur in that system. I think Matt LaFleur is a really good coach. I mean, if he was a free agent tomorrow, I think the majority of NFL teams would want to replace their coach with Matt LaFleur if they could.
Yeah, there's probably only maybe
so you think
4 or 5 coaches in the NFL.
You think you'd have a simple game plan, not air it out too much. So I think they've got the Packers, so they've got the Seahawks next week as well, if he does play both games. So that's not a bad sort of 2 games to take over. If they win one of these, there's every chance they might let him start the next one as well. But yeah, we do have a bathroom bet, right, Benny? Mac Jones versus Jordan Love. I think you've been waiting for this moment all season.
How is the bet being determined? I can't remember.
I think it's who's got the highest ADP next year. I think that's what it was.
Is it? We'll have to go back and double check that. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask you guys, how do you listen to the show? Because I know we all like listening back to the show, especially hearing our own voices. It's entirely pleasant. Doesn't make us want to throw up in our mouths at all. But how do you guys like to listen to the show when the rest of the show's on the Talk the Titles network? Personally, I'm a Spotify guy, right? And that's mainly because I pay for the subscription each month to listen to music, so I'm going to get my value out of it, damn it, and listen to those podcasts too, right?
I just cut off my Spotify, actually, the unlimited, trying to get those costs down, because I had about 10 bloody, I had Paramount Plus and Disney and Binge and who knows how many. I don't know how many I had. It's costing me a fortune.
They add up quickly, don't they?
They do. You forget about them.
Yeah, I've got Disney, I've got Netflix, and I've got Prime, and I get my value with Prime just on the deliveries, even if I don't watch any TV shows because I order too much stuff from Amazon. But
Google Podcasts for me. I listen on the Google Podcast. Used to listen to Podbean. Used to be Podbean, but it started crashing, so now I'm listening to Google Podcasts.
Yeah. How about you, Bully? What do you use?
Yeah, I'm Spotify. It's
Spotify.
Similar sort of thing. Pay for music, and it just makes it easier that everything's in one place. Yeah.
We like it easy. And though none of us are using Apple Podcasts at the moment, I also recommend Apple Podcasts. Or Podbean. You said Podbean crashed. That's a lie, doormat. Podbean doesn't crash. What are you talking about? Podbean is beautiful. And if for whatever reason you want to open up Facebook and just listen on there, you can watch this whole recording back on the Facebook page, Toilets to Titles When a Family Breaks. And while you're at it, you can get yourself some sports memorabilia while you're navigating that page. Right? All fantastic options. And if you are listening to Apple Podcasts, or even if you could just have some kind of Apple device or an Apple ID, so you can go and leave us a review. Regardless of where you listen, go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars, please. We deserve it. We're handsome people. Yeah. So, what else are we talking about, fellas? What else has happened?
OBJ.
How could I forget about Odell Beckham Jr.?
We try to forget about him, but we can't.
No. What are you doing with OBJ in Dynasty Fantasy Football? What's the play?
I just bought him off Mr. Bull. It was a straight swap for Cordero Patterson. Because I'm tanking in that league. It's a rebuild league. and he was killing me. His points were killing me. So I'm trying to get the cheapest pick. It's on potential points, so probably lost a little bit of value there. But in saying that, Cordaro, I think it's Cordaro, he's 30 years old. I'm waiting to see where he's picked up on the waivers, right? They said the Browns restructured his contract. He was going to be on the waivers for $7.5 million, which meant no one would pick him up. I think now, because they restructured it, he's available on the waivers for 1.1 or something. So,
Really?
Detroit Lions are number one on the waivers, and there's like Jags, Houston, I think Pats are about 16, which I think would be nice. I'm hoping he just clears waivers and he goes where he wants to. He just signs somewhere where he's happy at the minimum, at the veteran minimum, because I think if he gets into a situation where he's happy, it's a good fit for him. He still can be, in my opinion, a top end wide receiver. But they've got to give him a cuddle, treat him with kid gloves, wrap him in bubble wrap, give him a pat in the back, really manage him, and I think he can get back to his best.
So I'm looking on ESPN right now, and they said that they had to create that team needs $7.25 million in cap space to sign him.
No, it
that's
changed
before they
because
restructured.
he reached a settlement with Cleveland.
Yeah, no,
So-
it mentions the settlement. So after a day of negotiations, the Cleveland Browns and wide receiver Odell Beckham reached a settlement on Friday that will result in him being placed on waivers. The reworked contract is pending NFL PA's approval. As part of the settlement of the reworked contract, before it's terminated, the Browns agreed to remove the final 2 years of Beckham's deal, meaning he's now scheduled to be a free agent after this season, sources said. Any team that claims Beckham, who turned 29 on Friday, would earn $7.25 million in salary.
Okay. The number that I saw was a prorated from 1.1, so I think it was like 567,000 for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I think it was from Rappaport or from Chef. That was they'd redone it. You could be right, but look, hopefully that's the case. Hopefully he's on whoever picks him up's on the hook for 3 or 4, because obviously he'll just go through waivers, and then no one's on the hook. He can go where he wants to go. Better situation all round for everyone.
Yeah. I do. That Cordell Patterson OBJ trade does stand out in my mind, because as soon as the trade was made, Patterson's still a wide receiver on MFL, and we didn't change his position because we had no idea at the start of the season he'd be getting this much work at running back. But Bully's in the group chat 9 weeks into the season saying Cordell Patterson should have running back eligibility. Now I would have, and me, I'm the commissioner of that league. Nah, up your ass, Bully. That's not happening. Listen.
Well, okay, so my argument for it is
your argument would add more merit if you suggested it before you traded for him.
no. Well, okay, so what? Well, so next time I'm trying to trade for a player, I should go and signpost that and increase their value. Like it makes no sense. It's kind of like the fact that when you're trying to trade a player,
it's about having credibility, Bully. About having credibility.
No, well, he's a running back. His team lists him as a running back. Fantasy Pros has him as a running back. The majority of his snaps are at running back. And like the same argument can be made that, okay, so if Taysom Hill had Taysom Hill was listed the same thing a couple of years ago. Taysom Hill was listed at tight end and was playing at quarterback. So he was putting up quarterback points at a tight end position. I know the majority of my leagues went, no, we're changing him from tight end to quarterback in the middle of the season. Like I've had 3 leagues in the last, month where he's moved. Trade from,
It's the problem is in that league that the commissioner is a real Nazi. He's a real hard ass. Even there's a guy he's mates with that co-hosts a podcast with him and carries the podcast, increases the ratings, and I still had to pay. He made me pay to trade my first as well. I tried to give him an IOU, but he still made me pay. So
but
I on the whole hate the whole mid-season change thing, or it's a precedent. And then there were a couple of people in there that were like, oh, well, I wanted to go back and take, Jonathan Taylor over X. Completely different thing. But
it is a precedent though to change a player's position mid-season when he hasn't had that eligibility. And I
So
don't think it's a.
in the last
I don't
6
think
years,
it's a good precedent.
in the last 6 years, there's 2 players that have done it, and one
in offense leagues, right? But in IDP leagues that we all play in, how often are linebackers who are like players who are they're labeled as linebackers, right? But they're really defensive ends, and vice versa. And if those linebackers were actually marked as defensive ends, they'd have way more value, but they're marked as linebackers, so their value is way less, right? And same for
but like
cornerbacks who play safe.
But here's the difference.
Yeah.
Does the team give them the designation of linebacker, or does the team give them the designation of defensive end? Because for me, that's the number one thing. Like, there are plenty of players in the NFL who take 50-50 splits at running back and wide receiver, but their team lists them as a wide receiver. And that's not a question. For me, it's the fact that his team lists him as a running back, but for some reason, MFL as a platform have him listed as a wide receiver. And CBS, as my mate informs me, apparently, because apparently CBS still runs fantasy football leagues.
Look, I don't think that I've never been one to tamper with the settings on the website.
It'd be tough to do it mid-season. It'd be tough to do it mid-season, especially because there's 32 owners in there.
Yeah.
36. And the impact is so small because you only have to start one running back and everything else is a flex.
Yeah. I just sort of looked. And for me, the other thing is the comment, oh, well, you had no interest in him until you traded for him. Yeah. It's the same thing as if I walk into Burger King. I've got no interest in a Big Mac if I'm in Burger King. I didn't own him. I don't care about it. Like it's a stupid statement. Like,
yeah, but
I've got no interest in iTunes at the moment because I've got no Apple products. Like,
yes, but as the commissioner, I have to have the interests of the whole league at heart, right? As an owner, you just have the interest of Bully at heart.
Yeah, I was just surprised at the backlash because, as I said, 3 leagues I was in the last month have voted to change. And
I'm not voting.
One
I can't be bothered.
And one out of 30, one out of 36 owners had a problem. And I think the only person who had a problem was they were like, oh, I didn't even think to ask. And it's like, well, it's. And
if it was a 12-team league, I might vote on it, but I'm not going to go vote on a 36-team league because I don't think it'd be hard to get a majority this late. Like, I think too many people wouldn't vote, and I just can't be arsed with it, to be honest.
Yeah. I just sort of look at it and go, like, it's just a little bit. It's fine. Like, I'll start him at wide receiver and whatnot. Like, it was more the fact that I realized I've got 3 of my running backs out in 1 week. So I think currently I'm starting Philip Lindsay or Alec Ingold.
Yeah. So Bully self-interest.
Well, of course. If you're playing fantasy football and you're trying to help other teams, you're a fucking idiot.
Hey, I have to help all the teams. All right.
No, but of course, as an owner of a team, you're trying to help yourself. If you're trying to help other owners, that's collusion and you get kicked out of the league. For me, it's a pretty simple solution. If you own a fantasy football team, if you manage or whatever, term you're supposed to use this week, if you manage a football team and you operate some shares of players, you're trying to do the best thing to win.
Which is probably why the other owner piped up and said, I don't think it's a good idea.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt that if I had the interest to go in and check, there's every chance that I play him, the week before the playoffs and he's, got an issue. It all came from one person carrying on. And the fact that old mate seems to, every time somebody says anything in that group chat, he wants to carry on with a bit of a nod.
Have his say. Yeah, look, for me, I really don't care either way. It's not a big issue for me, and that sort of stuff comes back onto you, so I'll try not to. But it is a real thing in fantasy football, right? Like, I know in that Fog of War league, John Bosch came out and said he uses league chat to manipulate things. And smart owners do, right? Smart owners will use, sometimes there'll be a trade on there and someone will pipe up, oh, it's only a Devi first you're giving or something like that. And that's just part of the game, right? Just part of it. We all do it. Yeah. Table talks, yeah, it's great.
That happened to me a few weeks ago. I think I was close to buying a can't remember who it was. Might have been Zeke or someone around week 3 or 4, and I threw the offer out there of 2 firsts in a Devi league. And like they messaged me privately saying, "Oh, yep, agreed, send it through."
And then some first for like seconds.
Yeah, and like it's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, you can do it, but you're a bit of a dick. It's kind of like when it's kind of like in auction leagues when you turn around and go, "Oh, I can't believe Patrick Mahomes is going for less than Saquon Barkley," and everyone goes and bids on Patrick Mahomes. Like, I think there's an element of etiquette that we should operate within when playing fantasy football. But
we should. It is a bit of a douche move, but in saying that is part of the game, right? There are guys that are going to come out and do it, and if you're not doing it, you're probably it's going to get done to you. So,
yeah,
guys, we've had a couple of new members in the Toilets Titles team group in the Toilets Titles group chat because they joined as Patreons. It's been pretty banging lately, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah, and anyone can get into that Discord for just $3 per month, $3, or for $5 per month, you can join. You can get early access to our waiver wire episode, which Justin puts a tremendous amount of effort in, and he is always on our ass to add people, to add players to the waiver wire document for the episode. Right, rightly so. We've got to be on it. We've got to get those players on that document. And apologies, Justin, if I've ever missed. I think I missed once. I feel bad about it. But I did have a couple of hits lately with Dearness Johnson. All right, and I'm going to have another one this week with Jeremy Nichols. McNichols, sorry.
I'm all about that all day.
All right, and then
all
$10. McNichols he's going to be a player. And for $10 per month, right, it gets you the one-on-one roster analysis, free entry into our Frankenstein League. Now, the Tier 2 just assures you entry into the Frankenstein League, but you have to pay. But Tier 3 gets you free entry into the Frankenstein League and the T2T group chat and the early access waiver wire episodes. So, I think they're all excellent value propositions. Especially Tier 3 that gets you in the Frankenstein League for free. And, you can have one-on-one roster analysis with at FF Doormat or Dr. Bull. At Muffle is here. Now, there's a trade that went down in one of my leagues that I wasn't involved in this trade, but I thought I needed to mention it on the podcast because it was a big trade. Didn't involve either of you.
Oh, it's not that one. Okay.
No. But I don't know which trade you're referencing, but we can talk about that one next if you like. But this one involved Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase's value is pretty high right now. Fair to say?
Yep.
Unbuyable.
Yeah. Unbuyable, you would say. And this trade was between two of our dearest, closest friends, Mr. Scott T and Mr. Mick Travers. So, in this trade, Mick traded Jamar Chase. Scott acquired Jamar Chase. Mick just gave up Jamar Chase. Scott gave up Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, and Travis Kelce to get Jamar Chase.
That's the Kelce side for me.
Mick?
I want to know what's happening with Ridley first. I think Etienne, it's a bit of unknown with his injury, and James Robinson, hoping Ridley's coming back. Kelsey's getting older. Offense is already looking, not what it used to be. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Depends on the league. Which league was that in? I didn't see the trade. I just can't remember
You're not in that league.
I saw some chat about it, so I thought it was in one of the Will Ferrell league or something.
This is Heroes and Villains down under Devi.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
for me,
guess is it tight end premium? Sorry, Bully.
It is tight end premium. It's a very most of Brandon's leagues have very, very generous tight end scoring. So here, the Titans get 2 points. The Titans get 2 points per reception and 0.4 points per target.
So you're selling Chase. You get Kelsey back, Ridley back, Etienne back.
Actually, sorry, they get because they're part of the general rule as well, right? So, what is the rush receive reception? Where's the receptions rule? I can't see the general receptions rule. Yeah, no. Okay, no, it's just 2 points. My bad. Yeah.
No, for me that's the Kelsey side. I think when you break it down, like Kelsey will still be a top 14 to 15 pick in tight end premium leagues for the next, super flex tight end premium leagues for the next 2 years.
Yeah, he's getting old.
Yeah, like but like by the end of that 2 years, Jamar Chase is getting to the end of his rookie deal, and by that stage you start to worry about will the team have the money to re-sign him? Like they're going to have to re-sign him. T. Higgins the year before him as well. By that stage, Mixon's nearly 30 as well. So
who?
I just think if you're playing in 2 year windows, 2 to 3 year windows, you get at least 2 more years of Kelsey being elite, I think.
Yeah, but what's going on with Calvin Ridley though?
Yeah, but for me, that's just, you only need Calvin Ridley or Travis Etienne to hit. You only need one of the two to hit, and you're good. Like if you manage to get Travis Etienne to be an RB2 and you get Calvin Ridley at a back end RB1, top end, back end wide receiver 1, top end wide receiver 2, all of a sudden you've got 3 top 36, top 40 fantasy assets for one, I'm assuming it's super flex as well. So even if he is the wide receiver 1, he's still only going 6th overall at best. I think the depth of wide receiver also makes me a little bit more interested. Like, you can, like, there's just so many good young receivers now that, T. Higgins is not that far off him, and I can grab T. Higgins 3 rounds later.
What I found fascinating about this trade is Scott's a big time contender at 5-3, first in his division, and he gave up all those pieces to get Chase.
And depends who he's got at tight end.
He's got Gronk and Troutman at tight end. I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah, so if Gronk comes back, Gronk's a top 8, tight end for the rest of the season. And at the moment,
he could get hurt again at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, but so could Chase. Like,
it's a strange move to make as a contender. It's something I wouldn't have done as a contender. I think on Mick's side, it works well because he's 4-4. Just got the league now, and he's getting that tight end 1 extra starter, so he's probably making that move up. But maybe Scotty's in love with Jamar Chase. We've all got our guys that we would pay overs for. Maybe he feels like now it's the time to buy him before he gets even higher. But for me, how I play, I wouldn't have done it if I'm a contender. I wouldn't have bought a rookie wide receiver like Bull says. You can pick up a someone a bit cheaper that's maybe going to average 4 or 5 points less and going to cost you half the price.
What was the trade you thought I was referencing, Bull?
We had a couple of deals this week, didn't we, Matt?
Just for me on that trade before we move on. I like the Chase side if you're not contending, right? But I found it an odd trade to make with Scott sitting at the top of the division, unless he thinks Ridley's going to retire or something like that.
I kind of like either. I kind of like that Kelsey side, whether you're trying to win or not.
Yeah, I think that the Kelsey side is very, very safe.
Maybe Scotty thought he'd cash out on Kelsey. Maybe he thought he'd cash out on Kelsey.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
now was his highest. Let's cash out, dude.
Worst case scenario, you've got an elite tight end for another 2 to 3 years.
Yeah,
he has looked super special. Like Jamar has looked unbelievably good.
But how many wide receivers come out and look super special in a tier of their own, and then really they come back to the pack? Right? It's happened so many times.
Yeah.
It's a big pack, right?
It's a big pack. It's I would still prefer CD over Chase.
Like, if you're trying to contend this year, for reference, on points per game, Jamar Chase is only 0.2 points a week ahead of Antonio Brown, who is going to cost you a fifth of what Chase will cost. Like,
that's another thing as well. You can always buy an older wide receiver and get 80 to 90% of those points for like a third to half the cost, right?
Patterson scored 10 points less.
Thielen's costing a point less. Mike Williams is 2 points less. Like, it's a lot easier to replace that Jamar Chase production than it is to, replace Travis Kelce. Like, we're looking at Travis Kelce having a down year, and he's still, 30 points clear of Mark Andrews at tight end 2. And
you can always find bodies at wide receiver, and you can even, you can always play matchups as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was your trade, gentlemen?
Just pulling up. Okay, so
vinyl worthy. Okay, Bully.
Yeah, it's in vinyl worthy. I gave up Joe Mixon and Cortland Sutton and received Deshaun Watson, Miles Sanders, and Darius Geis in case anyone ever signs him.
So I've been trying to get Hopkins off you in this league since forever. It seems like, and every loss I'd be trying to push him a bit harder. I just couldn't get him. So it came down to today. I think this is the one where I was starting Mike White and Trevor Siemian in this league. I've got the most points scored. I had the most points scored last week, but my record was, I think it was like, I was third on victory points. It's a victory point league, which is a really great way to play because even if you're how it works is if you're in the top 4 scorers but you lose, you still get 2 points, which is great, right? You're not. I
really like victory points. I think it really ensures that the best teams.
Yeah.
For people who like to take as much luck out of fantasy football as they can, I think it's a great mechanism outside of just all play every week.
Yeah. I'm in a couple of all-play leagues. I don't enjoy them that much because you just don't have that head-to-head. And I'm doing really well in the all-play league. I think I'm one of the contenders there, but I just don't enjoy it as much as having that one-on-one battle. But in this system, even if you lose, you can still, sometimes you'll score 220, the other guy scores 228, and you're the second top scorer, but you get nothing. So this league, it works out well. But yeah, I just needed some starters because I am making a run. So I really didn't want to sell Deshaun Watson because I think he's still a generational quarterback. I think he comes back. He probably settles his lawsuits and comes back. Who knows? But that was my intention to keep him. But as soon as Sanders went on the IR as well, I was just like, okay, it's just time to. I just need some depth. So whoever I could get basically was
with Watson. It sounded like those settlement talks ramped up close to the trade deadline, and then they just couldn't get over that hump, right?
Yeah, so, it sounds like it.
I mean, I think. They'll come back to that in February, and as time comes to go to court, I think all sides will kind of align, and they'll end up settling in some form or fashion.
I think there'll be a settlement in the next couple of weeks. But
the urgency's not there anymore, though, Bully.
Yeah, but right? It is though.
Why?
So if he settles in the next couple of weeks, he serves his 8-game suspension because there will be a suspension involved. And all of a sudden, the team that signs him or trades for him knows that they're getting him to use week 1 next year.
Yeah, look, I don't think that is. Look, personally, I don't think that's the case. I think the deadline now is like around the court, going to trial, that kind of thing. I think that's the new deadline. If you're looking at, acquiring Deshaun Watson long term, are you really worried about, a 6-game suspension, 8-game suspension? I don't think so.
It depends which team you are. Like, if you're
what team you are.
Miami, if you're Miami, and let's face it, Miami seem to be the name that keep coming up.
They seem pretty locked into Deshaun. I don't really get why. I still think Tua's can be a good quarterback. And to me, if Deshaun Watson is on Miami, how much different is it for him than being on the Texans right now as far as talent on the roster? I don't think it's a world of difference. Yeah.
Okay, so currently
Waddle,
you've got
Parker.
You've got Waddle, Parker, Preston Williams. There's somebody else there that's not half bad in Miami.
Gesicki.
Neither of those guys are as good as Brandon Cooks. And the O-line on Miami is horrible. Despite the investment in the O-line, it's a bad O-line. And if they trade for Watson, what's their mechanism to make that team better?
Watson.
Exactly, that's it.
Watson's the mechanism. That's what he was great. He was great at Houston, right? He was carrying that team. They were terrible, and he was still, top 4 quarterback.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah,
But let's back to the trade at hand.
Yeah.
Obviously, you think he's going to. Sorry, well, I guess this is part of the trade. You obviously think that he's going to be available next season to go, Bully. All wheels up to Deshaun Watson.
I think he'll be available at some point early next season. I think there's probably a chance that he's got to serve some of the remainder of his suspension this year, or next year rather, a la Tyler Boyd. But I think he'll be available fairly early next season. Where he's playing. There's teams that, the only place that would concern me is Philadelphia, just because they're,
well, he controls his
shaping
destiny
up to
too,
be the
right?
next.
He controls his destiny.
Yeah,
They
well, he's
can't
got
just
that
trade
no
him.
trade clause.
He's got that no trades clause. So you think he'd be, he's not going to have the whole NFL after him, obviously because of his situation, but his talent would open up some teams. So yeah, hopefully, it's not Philly.
Yeah, I think
I like that trade for you, Bully. I think the downside is pretty low if because I think he'll be back as an NFL starting quarterback sometime next year.
it hurt me at running back. It did hurt me at running back just because I'm pretty high on Mixon. He's still probably a top 5 or 6 running back for me, and he's actually seeing the work now. It would have been nice to have a running back core next year of Akers, Dobbins, and Mixon. But at quarterback, it was ugly. I was running Mac Jones as my only, quarterback. So, yeah, we'll see. And maybe Miles Sanders eventually, since Philadelphia decided to use their running backs this week, now that Miles Sanders is on IR, maybe they've realized that they can run the ball.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but maybe.
Look, I'm a big Miles Sanders fan. I just don't think he's getting the shot. I think he's got a lot of talent.
I think he's got.
I like him too, but
I think he's got every right to request to leave. How do you have a running back who in their rookie year put up 1,400 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving, and like he hasn't got near that usage since. He goes on IR, and all of a sudden they've got stone hands and, check out, people having, 105 rushing yard games, and all of a sudden you're giving them 45 rushing attempts.
And he looked good when he did have the ball and in limited carries. He was busting tackles. He was making breaks. He looked explosive. So it wasn't on him. They just weren't giving him the opportunity.
It's an odd situation. Boys,
he's averaging over 4 yards per carry.
So before we go, is there anything else that we want to discuss?
I sent you a trade and Kraken, bully. Just hit accept. So
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it. It's cheeky.
You said you'd smash accepted if we go back to the.
No,
earlier.
I said I'd consider it, and it depends if I think I can win the league next year. I don't think I can. Benny's team's far too good.
My team. I'm going craft this year.
Kittle's back, mate. Kittle's back. You're sweet. That was a good trade for that one.
I think for me, the only other one is Adrian Peterson. Like I think
AP
the value
lives.
Huh?
AP
all day.
lives.
All day. No, like he put up I think he put up 3 RB1 weeks last year, and I think another 3, RB2 weeks when he was sharing a backfield with DeAndre Swift. Like, he's still got it. They've signed him to a practice squad, and then they've elevated him immediately because of what he was showing them. So,
look, I bet you, I reckon he has a touchdown on the weekend, on Sunday. What do you reckon? Anyone want to take that bet?
He could be good for 2. Like, it would not surprise me if he walks in day one and they just give him Derrick Henry workload. Like, it would not surprise me.
I'm saying I could see 20 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown.
I think we're missing the lead here, guys. I think AJ Brown. It's AJ Brown season. He's going to have 300 yards.
AJ Brown's hurt again, mate.
17 targets. What are you talking about?
He's back on track, mate. You should
have 150.
You should trade me Jamar Chase for AJ Brown. It's back on track.
Didn't Brown have 155 yards last game?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
No,
I think in the big moments they're going to go to AJ Brown. I think obviously they run first offense, but there's a difference between giving it to Derrick Henry or giving it to Peterson or McNichols. So I expect when they need someone to break that game open, it's not going to be a running back anymore. It's going to be AJ Brown. But it wouldn't be surprised if Peterson got a couple of goal line carries and scored.
Yeah, I'm just not going to question anything like that Adrian Peterson can do. Like last year, he put up insane numbers. Again in sharing the backfield with Swift. He came back from a ACL, I think it was, and just looked better than before. And I'm just not going to question the man. Like he's in his mid-30s, and he's just an animal. And the fact that Tennessee have straight away elevated him to lock him in, they've been running extra contact work with him to get him up to speed. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he is a league winner for a few teams this year. Like I got him in a few leagues through waivers. There's a few leagues that I've tried to trade it for him.
So he's league winner.
Yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if he is a point per game, RB1 for the rest of the season.
You heard it here first. I like him. Always been a big fan. I think he's somehow underrated. I think he's sensational. Hall of Fame running back, Hall of Fame talent.
Yeah.
But I'm just not sure what they're going to do in these big moments. If they're, obviously goal line carries, he's still going to get that. He's still going to be startable. Let's wait and see.
See how badly he hurts Benny's boy McNichols.
Nichols will go all right. Before we go, I just want to touch on the Jameis Winston injury. I was shattered. I was my QB3 in console wars, and you know what? I'm 6-2 in console wars. I traded Tom Brady for Jameis Winston. How bad does that look right now? I would be fucking killing that league if I hadn't made that trade. But I thought, no, he's going to retire. He's got one more year. I want to get some years back at quarterback. This was when I was really worried about Wentz and what would happen with Wentz, and I was just, mate.
I think my hot takes. I had Winston as a QB1 this year. So it is very sad.
The yards weren't there, but he was. I thought he was coming around. He looked like he'd be the long-term solution. Now I'm not. Now you just don't know, right? Can't be sure. I guess they got him for one more year, so they probably trot him back out again, right?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
What do you?
I think he's that transitional quarterback next year. I think they take someone in this draft. I mean,
yeah, good chance.
There's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that don't have supreme arm talent, don't have supreme talent on the ground, but they've, solid completion percentage quarterbacks, which I think is someone that Sean Payton can build around.
I'd love to see my boy Malik Willis with Sean Payton. Oof. That'd be beautiful.
Would you sell Winston for Roethlisberger? Is that a move you'd make?
I don't know if I could do it.
In console wars, would you do it? Because I just said it for you. It's there.
I knew it had been sent because you tried to sell him to me.
I'd have to shop around.
He's underrated. It's a one-time offer.
I don't know. I'm a bit annoyed at myself. I didn't think I could be this much of a contender in console wars, but that trade we made really helped me out with my overall depth. And
I think it was a good trade for you. It was a good trade for me. I think I would have liked a bit more value back, but second would have been nice to get a second, but you didn't have one, and I didn't want to can the trade over that. I think it's similar to me and Bully when we were trading. I think he wanted Jonathan People-Jones in that trade, and sometimes you just do miss a bit of value just to make a trade happen because it's a move you're looking to make to rebuild or whatnot. So yeah, I would like to second back, but in saying that, I'm pretty happy. I got AJ Brown. I got a first. I'm rebuilding. I got a heap of potential points off my team, which is part of it too, right?
Mm-hmm. True. Very true. Very true. So before we go, just want people to know that on the Toys to Titles YouTube channel, there is a bunch of shows that you should be listening to. You got a Dash Your DFS. That one is, the coach is on that. He's on there with Mike, and of course, one of the newest members of the Toys to Title podcast family, Joe Arachi. Then you've got Dollars to Deuces with Nate and Rich talking about weekly bets. Joe Knows is there. We got the weekly waiver wire episode with Justin. And then, of course, the big show, Toss the Titles. I think Shane was on there this week doing a mock draft with the coach of 2022 draft. So, yeah. Please go to the YouTube channel. Leave some comments, interact with us on YouTube, leave some reviews, and of course, sign up for the Patreon. And again, please leave us a podcast on Apple Podcast reviews.
5 stars.
Is there anything else, guys?
No, I reckon that's it.
All right, we're done. Ciao.